Hello again. It's time for Mystery Dram number 10, I believe. So, Mystery Dram from Andrew A.P. Butler. Thank you very much, Andrew. Nearly at the end of this. We're getting through there slowly but surely. So, if you've not seen any of these before, you probably have by now. But Andrew, at the end of my Dram A Day challenge earlier on this year, handed me a pack of 12 miniature bottles, which he has sealed up like so I can't actually see what they are. I have to peel it off, and he's written underneath what they actually are, so I'm going in completely blind, no idea where it's from, what the percentage is, what the content is it bourbon, is it single malt, is it a blend, whatever. So yeah, who knows, let's see how this one goes. I've been fairly successful so far, it's not been too bad, but there is still plenty of time. There is 3, including this one, for me to go completely the wrong way, but we'll see how we crack on with this one. And then once I've done these 3, I can start looking at maybe some runs of particular distilleries, because as part of my new job, I've got quite a few sample bottles behind me, including a few sort of whole ranges, where I've got literally like the Ben Romack 1500 proof organic peat smoke wood finish, not the 35-year-old unfortunately, and I'd like to do like a video where I go through all of them, so it's a kind of extension of what I was doing on a Dram A Day, where there's a little bit about the distillery, but then it's not just one whiskey, it'll be maybe not all 6 in one night, but you know, stagger that a little bit, but at least you can get a comparison between all of them. Anyway, Mystery Dram number 10. Colour wise, bugger, I've lost my bit of paper, there we go. Hopefully you might be able to see behind there. Pretty dark actually. But it's a definite sort of amber, but dark amber, very dark amber colour, but very healthy indeed. Colouring might have been added to it, so you know, it's difficult to sort of like go straight off colouring and go, oh, it's probably that type of cask, that sort of thing, because if colouring's been added, it just completely, you know, it throws all of that out of whack. So nose. There's a little bit of spice on there. I don't know if you've had, there's some noisy kids outside that are being a bit of a pain in the backside. I think they're young, they're not rowdy teenagers, they're young kids, but they're just being a bit exuberant. God, how old did I sound then? There's a little bit of spice on there. It could be Scotch, but it could be Japanese. I don't know why Japanese is coming in my head. Now, how many, have I had 1, 2 Japanese that Andrew sent me? There was definitely a Japanese, there's at least 1 Japanese in there. I'm sure I might have had 2. Because he's not told me anything about them. They're literally all blind, so I have no idea where these are from, but this is not American. The number 9 that I had last week was really on the nose, really clearly bourbon, really bourbony. This, no. This is a sherry cask of whatever it is. This is definitely a sherry element rather than a bourbon element, and it's got a Scotchy feel to it. I'm pretty certain it's not Irish. I don't think he's put anything particularly wacky like Indian or that lot, but he might have done. Just get my phone ready just so that I can check, give you the details of it when I know what it is, but I am going to go with Scotch. There's a slight mintiness to it as well. It's like a real sherry, it's a sherry influence, but there's a slight menthol note to it. There's no peat, there's not a smokiness to it. So I'm going to stick my neck out and I'm going to go with Scotch. And that sherry element is sort of saying Space ID. I don't think it's Highland. Highlands can be quite, it's really hard to put Highland into any kind of generic, this is what Highland tastes like, but they tend to, the sort of, you know, Clynelish has this oiliness, and Glenmorangie is really light, and Old Pulteney has the sea element, and what else we've got, like Oban's slightly salty, and it's, you know, Dalmore counts as Highland, but there is quite a sherried element to this. I'd say it's quite young as well. It doesn't smell cask strength. I'm going to have to try it because I tend to spend too long nosing this rather than actually getting it down my neck. There's an oakiness to this as well, almost woody, almost quite woody, a little bit too woody. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Scotch. I'm gonna go with, if it's Scotch, maybe a 10-year-old, 10 or 12-year-old or something like that. It's quite young, but it's got a real woodiness to it. There's an oakiness there that's a little bit overbearing. The sherry that's there on the nose is still kind of there on the palate. There's a little bit of maltiness that's coming through, but it's balanced a little bit too much towards the wood for my liking. It's not that it's a dry oakiness. It's not one of these that sort of sucks the moisture out of your mouth, but the wood is just overbearing slightly. There is a little bit of smoothness to it, a little bit of a silky mouthfeel, which is why I'm going sort of 10, 12-year-old, because I don't think it's really young. I don't think it's like a 6 or 8-year-old, which would be even sharper. It's just lacking something. It's okay, it's just a little bit unbalanced, and it's just lacking a little bit of depth and a little bit of body. I'd prefer to have a little bit more of that sherry influence, that sherried sweetness, a little bit more of the maltiness to give it depth and more kind of oomph to it, and just a little less of the wood oakiness that's there. I'm definitely going with Scotch. Definitely going with Scotch on this. It's entirely possible that it's one I've already had in the challenge, because he said there is some that from the challenge that you've, or some distilleries that you've had, not necessarily actual whiskies that you've had. I am fearing that he might have included Hague Club in there somewhere, but I've not come across it yet. There's still 2 to go, and this definitely isn't Hague Club. So I'm going to go with Scotch. I don't know whether it's Speyside or Highland. I'm erring towards Speyside, like a sherried Speyside. So this might even be something like Macallan, something like that, like a sherried Speyside. Just trying to, you know, Macallan, Balvenie. You know, it's Glenfiddich was peachier than this, that sort of thing. I'm just trying to think, maybe even Aberlour. Now it's not heavily sherried, and it's not heavily sherried. It's not actually, no, it's not as heavily sherried, and it's not the alcohol content. I think this is like 43% of something like Aberlour or Bunner, which I love. But this could be Aberlour 10-year-old or Macallan 10-year-old, something like that, where it's, you know, it's okay, it's decent, and there's enough in there that suggests to me that it would be like, you know, it would be up there with mainstream Speyside Scotch. There's too much of a sherry mainstream maltiness for me to think of a Highland distillery that I might have had. And through the challenge, I'd covered basically every operational Scotch whisky distillery. So if it is Scotch, it's probably a distillery that I've had, and I can't think of any Highland whiskies that have got that kind of characteristics that are, or at least that I can remember, because I can barely remember what I did yesterday. I've got a little bit left. Let's see what it is. Okay, so moment of truth. Ooh. Okay, well, I did have it in the challenge, but I didn't actually have this one. It is Balvenie. It is the Balvenie Classic 18-year-old, which surprises me, because I honestly wouldn't have put that any older than 12. Really wouldn't have done. I've never had the Balvenie 18-year-old. There is this smooth maltiness. Yeah, it kind of hints at, and this is probably me kind of like looking at it retrospectively, knowing that it's an 18-year-old. There is an element to it of, okay, I could understand where that age is coming from, because there is a smoothness to it, but the woodiness, there's still a sharpness to it, and this oakiness. Holy crap. So if this is actually what it is, this is what the bottle looks like, which isn't like an ordinary Balvenie bottle that I've ever come across. And I've just put Balvenie 18 Classic, which is what he's got on the label, Balvenie Classic 18-year-old. So actually, Whisky Exchange are out of stock or they have another one bottled in the 1980s. They are selling a bottle for £499. Apparently it's a very collectible Balvenie, and not been available since 1993. Blimey. Yeah, wine shaped bottling. My dad's actually got a bottle of Balvenie. It's either 10 or 12, and that is in a wine bottle as well. It's not quite as fancy as that particular one, but I'd be interested to know how much that is. Hard to find whiskies are quite expensive, but they are selling it for, when me thing loads up, they are selling, oh, not back in stock. Well, that's no use, is it? If you put it in shopping, about 500 quid a bottle. Jesus Christ. Yowza. So, yes. So it's not cheap. So I am very, very lucky to have this, in even just a small quantity of it. I'm very, very lucky to have it. But it's not as good as I would have hoped for. It's almost like Balvenie at 12-15. Once you get past 15-year-old, it then starts to tail off. And I think I've had the 21-year-old Balvenie. I honestly can't remember what it was like though. But there's just something lacking in this whiskey. It's lacking a bit of body. It's lacking intensity of the sherry casks. Assuming it'll be sherry casks, it's Balvenie. And it's just slightly overpowered by oak. And it's then not suggesting it's 18-year-old, it's suggesting it's younger and not balanced enough. Very interesting. There is this overriding oakiness to it. And it's not killing it, it's not completely overpowering it, but it's just too prominent. And the sherry element isn't big enough to combat the oak, and as a result it feels a little flabby. It just feels like it's just a little lackluster, just a little ordinary, almost like it's been watered down. Oh, I didn't see what the percentage was. Was it 43%? Because 43%, because it feels like it's been actually diluted more than that. It feels like I've added water to it already. For something so expensive, I would be probably a little bit, I would certainly be expecting more out of an 18-year-old Balvenie, having had the 12 and the 15. I would expect more body, more oomph about it, and it's just not there. It's almost like 15 is where it's at, and 18 onwards, it just starts to lose the characteristics of the distillery. But I really cannot complain to have a whiskey at 500 quid a bottle. Yet another amazing sample that Andrew has donated. Incredibly kind of him. So 2 more to go, and hopefully I'll be able to get through those fairly quickly, and then I can crack on with some other videos as well. Andrew, thank you again. Thank you for watching as well, and I shall see you at the next one. Cheers.